Hey guys, coming to you with another video. This one is a 2019 year-end top 10s, and we continued, and we are going to be doing numbers 2, 3, and 4 in this video, breaking them down and seeing who finished in those spots. We kick it off with number 4. Finishing the year number 4 is the undefeated WBA super champion Dimitri Bivol, who entered the year number 5, so he moves up one spot to number 4. And entering this year, he was coming off a 3-0 2019, but it was a 2018, but it was a 2018 that kind of went in reverse for him. He started the year off great, scoring his career best win when he scored a 12th round TKO, impressive TKO over Sullivan Barrera. So he showed power, he showed everything in that fight, and Barrera is considered a very tough fighter. But then he took on some nobody towards the middle of the year, got a win, and then he took on in November, he took on Jean Pascal to stay busy, and he just didn't look that good in that fight. You know, he looked good. He dominated the action. It was a one-sided decision, but I think people were looking for a finish and a knockout, and he just couldn't deliver. And he was looked at a high-risk, low-reward guy, a guy that could take a punch, that can box very well, but not a big power puncher, and hadn't really seen, you know, he pretty much shuts down and dominates every fight. So people weren't really willing to give him an opportunity. Plus, he signed a contract with DAZN at the very beginning of the year, and then the guy he was supposed to fight, Beterbiev, in a unification bout, signed with Top Rank and ESPN, so he pulled out of their fight. That hurt him. He ended up, though, starting the year off good. He got Joe Smith Jr. in the ring, former world, tough contender Joe Smith Jr., a lot of power. And he absolutely shut down Joe Smith, dominated him. But he got hurt in the 10th round, but he finished the fight strong, almost finished Smith off in that fight, and got another nice win right there. But again, just nobody wanted to fight him in the second half of the year, fighting for DAZN, and mostly everybody else with Top Rank or the PBC, so wasn't getting a lot of bites to fight anybody. So he came back in, I believe it was October, he came back and took on little-known Lenin Castillo, got a one-sided 12-round unanimous decision, again retained his title. He somehow got upgraded without an announcement to super champion because Pascal became the regular champ. And now he's just sitting there waiting around for another shot, and waiting around for a shot against one of the other champions. Arthur Beterbiev said he'd be willing to fight him. But how many fights is Beterbiev going to get? It looks like now Beterbiev's not going to return until the spring, April or May at the earliest. After that, I mean, it depends on how he does, but is this going to be a 3-fight year to where Beterbiev could face Bivol? He might have a mandatory due against Jean Pascal. He has the option of undefeated Gilberto Ramirez. That's Top Rank stuff that he can control. He can't control this fight with Bivol necessarily, because Bivol's with the DAZN and Matchroom. So, going to be interesting to see the kind of year Bivol gets, an opportunity. At the very worst, I think he should move down to 168, but I think he's going to be feared down there too, even though they have more fighters there. So, going to be tough to see and interesting to see what opportunity he gets. I think if worst case, and he's still champ and nobody's faced some of these guys, I think Eleider Alvarez might fight him. I could see Marcus Brown taking the step over and trying to get him in the ring. And then I could see Alexander Volcik being an option. So he needs to just keep banging away. You know, he's a very good fighter, very talented. He's only 29, so he's still in his prime. He's still got some time before the big fights. Eventually, these guys are going to have to fight him, but he has to try to get the fights that he can get, and he's got to stay busy. He cannot stay out of the ring. He's got to stay busy, fight whoever's willing to fight him, in my opinion, but that hasn't been too many, but just stay busy and try to get legitimate, decent fighters in the ring as best he can. But I really hope somebody gives Bivol an opportunity because he deserves it. He's a good fighter. Next up, and finishing the year number 3 in the 175-pound light heavyweight division, is former WBO champion Eleider Alvarez. Eleider Alvarez was coming into 2020. Originally, he was number 1 coming into the year in 2019, and he drops 2 spots to number 3. He scored a massive win in 2018, though, when he upset Sergey Kovalev with a 7th-round TKO. Brutal knockout there as he became the world champion for his first time. He was undefeated, so a lot of people were looking forward to seeing the kind of year he was going to have in 2019, but he had a mandatory rematch with Kovalev due. and in February they rematched. And, you know, it looked like he was just looking for that big shot against Kovalev again, and Kovalev wasn't having it. Kovalev cleanly outboxed him, outworked him in this fight, and scored a one-sided 12-round unanimous decision here as he regained the world title, taking it from Alvarez. Alvarez didn't hang his head, though. He was looking forward to fighting for top rank and his next fight. And in June, he was supposed to face Jesse Hart, but he had to pull out of that fight with an injury. After that, he tried to come back towards the end of the year. He's trying to work out deals with Gilberto Ramirez. Didn't happen. And now he's heading into 2020, now only fighting again once this past year. So he hasn't been the most active fighter the last few years, but, you know, he's been in some big fights and he still has opportunity. But heading into this year, he's 35 now. But he has a good record and he hasn't been in a lot of wars, 24-1, 12 knockouts. I really hope we see him get an opportunity in 2020. You know, he's taken on Michael Seals. I think he's a former world title contender. That fight's on ESPN on January 18th. I believe it's the main event. I think he can't overlook Michael Seals in that fight. He needs to go out and win that fight convincingly. Michael Seals is not a complete joke. He's a decent fighter, and you know, he shouldn't be overlooking him at all. But he's going to get that opportunity against Seals, and then after that, he's got to decide what he wants to do next and who he wants to go against. But he's not a big name, but he is a former champ, and I think he might be viewed as people might overlook him, but they also might look at him as a stepping stone former champion. And but he's also with Top Rank. He's got a lot of options at Top Rank if they're willing to fight him. They got Kovalev, Gilberto Ramirez. You know, he could look for a third fight with Kovalev if Kovalev will have it. Gilberto Ramirez would be a good fight. Alexander Volcik, if him and Volcik can't get a shot against somebody, why not fight each other? They're former champs. Artur Beterbiev, if he can move himself in line. I think this is kind of year where it's just going to be based on the opportunity, but he needs to put in the work, whether the opportunity's there or not. And hopefully by the end of the year, he's getting another world title shot or even a final eliminator to get into a title shot. So we'll see what happens, but I still like Alvarez. I still think he could do some damage, and we'll see what he does in 2020. And now, finishing up this video and finishing the year number 2 in the 175-pound light heavyweight division is Sergey Kovalev, the former 3-time light heavyweight champion. He entered 2019 coming off of 2018 where he got upset. He entered the year 18 as champion, got a couple wins, but then in August, he took on Eliter Alvarez and got upset by a 7th-round TKO, and I think that was my upset of the year in 2018. 2019, he had a mandatory shot against Alvarez, though, in a rematch. And in February, he got that, and he looked good in that fight. He outboxed and outworked him and didn't put himself in the same harm's way that he had the first time, and cleanly outboxed him. One-sided 12-round unanimous decision as he regained the light heavyweight title, becoming a 3-time light heavyweight world champion. In August, he made a mandatory defense against undefeated Anthony Yarde from the United Kingdom. Most people felt he was going to win this fight, but Yarde actually tested him. Early on, Yarde was outboxing him, but he kept pressing and he started throwing more punches, and it ended up being a really good fight. In the 8th round, though, he almost got knocked out in the 8th round by Yarde as he got caught, but he weathered that storm, kept pushing, and he scored an 11th round TKO over a tough youngster and up-and-comer in Anthony Yarde, but he proved he was still legit. There was talks right around that time and right before of him fighting Canelo, though, and Canelo, he ended up getting the Canelo fight, but Canelo played it perfect. It was on 10 weeks notice. So by the time they got the fight in on November 2nd, and within 10 weeks of the fight with Yarde, which took a lot out of Kovalev, he had to defend the title against Canelo. It was actually a pretty good, solid boxing match between the two. Canelo was winning, but Kovalev was doing good work. They were throwing their decent amount of punches, doing the work. But out of nowhere, in the 11th round, he got caught with a wicked combination by Canelo and put down and knocked out cold. And that was it for Sergey Kovalev as he lost his WBO light heavyweight title. But Kovalev didn't hang his head. He didn't talk about retirement. He said he wants to come back. And, you know, I think he admitted the training, it was the training that really hurt him, you know, not having enough time in between fights. But, you know, that's why he took the fight. That's why Canelo did it. I mean, you got, you know, if you want those big time opportunities, you got to take them. He took it and he came up short. But Kovalev has a great name. You know, he enters 2020. I think this has got to be his last hurrah right here. It really has to be his last kind of run to see what he's made of. He is, he's 36 now. He moves up one spot from number 3. He's number 2 now, and he has an opportunity in 2020 to be the best. Again, you know, put himself back at the top, but he's gonna have to take risk against top tier fighters, and you know, guys like Artur Beterbiev has wanted to fight him for forever if that fight's even possible. We'll see, but he's got to work himself back in the mix, and I really hope he does. I like him a lot. I always have liked Kovalev. I think he's a Hall of Famer, and I'm looking forward to seeing his next fight. Like I said, he's 34-4 with 1 draw, and he's got 29 knockouts. He's still a good knockout fighter, still packs a big punch. So can he take the punishment against the younger guys? We'll see. I think he'll come back towards the middle of the year, May, June, in that area. And then hopefully it's a good 2-fight year for him where he takes on solid opponents. You know, and I hope, you know, with Top Rank having so many opportunities there, like 6 of the top 10 are all top ranked fighters. I hope he gets, you know, there's a Leader Alvarez, there's a Gilberto Ramirez, Jesse Hart, Alexander Votsick, former champ. And you know, there's Artur Beterbiev if he could get a shot against him. So we just got to wait and see, but I'm hoping he gets somebody. All right, guys, that's it. That's numbers 2, 3, and 4. Sergey Kovalev, Leader Alvarez, and Dimitri Bivol. Hope you enjoyed this. 2019 year in top 10s, light heavyweights, true boxing. You've been hit with the truth.